This is episode 265 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Gian Pazzia. He is the chairman and chief strategy officer at KBKG and oversees all strategic initiatives for the company. He has over 25 years of experience in the specialty tax industry. He's a recognized leader in the cost segregation field. Gian, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thanks for the lovely introduction.
Yeah. Some people say I should just call them every morning and introduce them, get them pumped up for the day. But I'm excited to have you on the show because it's interesting, though. You've been in the tax field and cost seg for so long. It's often an oversight for investors, right? I mean, some of the biggest investors have just lapsed in tax, and this is where we're here to save them today, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I still see, especially maybe bigger family offices with older family members that have just kind of held their properties for a long time and status quo. And they're missing out on some big benefits.
Yeah. Why do you think it is? I know for me, who just obliterated my taxes many times, like being late and not figuring out what to do on properties, but my dad was way better. I think for me, it was always just the fear of unknown. Like, I don't know, am I doing something wrong? What do you think it's been? You have so much experience in the field. Why would someone who's so experienced as a real estate investor pass on all these opportunities that are built into the code?
If you asked me that question 10 years ago, it would be a different answer. With cost segregation specifically, it's gotten so popular and common these days. But, I think, like I said, 10 years ago and to some degree today, a lot of investors thought it was too good to be true, thought that, that it was going to open up a can of worms under an IRS audit. And people still always ask, is this going to trigger an audit? I got skeletons in the closet. I don't want to come out. And I can tell you from my 25 years that this doesn't tend to be an issue that is highly controversial with the IRS for a number of reasons. And I can kind of get into that.
Yeah. I mean, it's well documented. I mean, the whole point of doing it is so it's documented so the IRS sees that you followed the rules and you've identified everything, especially when it comes to cost seg. But for a lot of the code, it's all right there. So when you follow it, there's no reason for that to trigger the sketchy stuff that they did before. That maybe will trigger an audit someday.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And people just don't want to do anything that might, bring the IRS to the doorstep.
Let's just backtrack a little and go through what cost segregation is and what items you're looking at, because I know it's really surprising, the list of amount of items that can be depreciated quicker or over time to make sure that you're getting the most out of your asset and tax base.
Yeah. So look, to break it down, cost segregation allows real estate investors to depreciate parts of their buildings faster. Instead of over 27 and a half or 39 years, you're basically writing off a big chunk of it over in a lot of cases, year one. And so the reason is that not the tax code, the rules are written to allow that certain components that don't last as long as the building can be written off quicker. And so things like vinyl flooring, cabinetry, appliance wire, like things that are connected to the appliances. I'm using like a multifamily building right now. Outside of the building, your landscaping, your asphalt paving, pretty much anything outside the walls of the building can be accelerated as well. And so, like I said, cost seg report is going to break that entire building down into all these different pieces. And the way the tax rules are right now, we can talk about bonus depreciation. A lot of that can be written off in year one. And so, like, just to put some numbers behind it, let's say you bought a $2.7 million apartment building. Okay.
Yep.
And let's just assume none of that is land. That's what the building is worth and what you get to depreciate. So normally you get to take $100,000 write-off every year for 27 years. Okay. That's normal depreciation
Mhm.
on an apartment building. But with a cost seg study, by doing what we talked about, you can get as much as 25% of those costs written off in year one. And so now you're looking at $540,000 of deductions in year one compared to that 100,000. That's a big difference that, can basically wipe out your tax bill.
Yeah. Is there a time when it's not a good idea to do? Because I people need to be lendable. And if they're not a high, someone who just has enough money to buy cash and do all of these things, and someone's newer to it, and then they do a big cost seg, they get their tax bill to zero, and then they want to go get their second property. And then their taxes don't look as powerful, I guess, for lenders because the lending business is very backward to me. But
I haven't had, I have a lot of clients that have been doing this for a long time, and I've never heard of any issues getting loans because their tax bill is, is getting wiped out from cost seg. But maybe I'm missing something because I'm not part of those conversations. I just have never heard somebody say that.
yeah, I mean, it's smart tax strategy. I mean, it should be able to see through into the returns.
Yeah, exactly. I will say on my own personal properties, because I invest myself, and
Yeah.
it is, dealing with some lenders, especially on the four plexes and smaller, where they're, used to dealing with, just smaller taxpayers.
Yeah.
We actually did have them start questioning, like, wait a second, you're getting all these depreciation deductions, and we had to essentially educate them.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
these are paper losses. These aren't like real
Right.
losses.
Right. Or just being smart. Yeah.
So I think a lot of the bigger lenders are onto it. Yeah. If mom and dad are older, and they've bought properties in the last 5 to 10 years, if it is really important that they do the cost seg studies as soon as possible. And the reason is because they're essentially, by not doing the cost seg study, they're essentially paying more in tax right now than they should, because the
Yeah.
cost seg study is basically saying they shouldn't pay as much right now.
Right.
The thing is that if they pass away, right, they've lost the ability to take a bunch of depreciation that they should have
Right. If they
while
haven't
they were
maxed
alive.
out their depreciation of the 27. Right.
Right, right.
Yeah.
See, the thing is that with cost seg, we're not creating deductions. We're just taking them earlier.
Right.
And so you ask, why would someone not do cost seg? Sometimes people think, oh, well, I, well, I'm not, I'm going to get those deductions eventually. And they will. They will
Yeah.
eventually get them over 27 years. The problem is that if mom and dad are older, they will never get those deductions over
Right.
27 and a
Right.
half years.
Yeah.
And so you got to do that. You got to do that right now, because that's a use it or lose it situation. There's other kind of strategies that kind of, if your parents have passed away in 2024, okay, it's a tough topic to talk about, but if it's happened and they've held real estate, you have a limited time right now before September and October 15th of this year. You have a very limited window to do the cost seg on your
Oh,
parents' property, okay, and essentially capture those
before.
deductions that they should have taken before that final tax return for them is filed. So you have a very limited, it's time sensitive, it's extremely important. It's a use it or lose it
Yeah.
situation. You got to look at that one.
That's really important because it's so tough when a parent or somebody in your family dies, and there's so much stuff to do after somebody passes away that you can just miss out on these gigantic opportunities. So I think that's a really great one because now, people can keep that in the mind for the future and especially remind their parents, even if they're in their 60s and they get a new investment property, hey, do the cost seg, because it's good for you and it's good for everybody later. That's more like generational wealth planning to me, which I think is really what all of us are after. everybody is seeking that eventual time freedom and passing stuff down to their kids, and cost seg can be a big part of that. But as you said, you could go awry by not doing it at the right times and lose the opportunity to get it.
Yep. Yeah. I see it all the time. And yeah, that estate planning strategy is in my mind, it's, it's not about timing anymore. It's a use it or lose it situation. And yeah, like in all the other situations with cost seg, it is more of a time value of money deal. But that one is a permanent kind of tax benefit that you miss out on.